No one sets out to develop a health condition, a condition that limits independence and narrows one's options, or requires lifelong medications, or something that in most cases is influenced by modifiable risk factors. Yet, the reality is the conditions that most often erode the quality of life over decades, heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, are strongly shaped by our day-to-day patterns, what we eat, how much we move, how well we sleep, and whether tobacco and excess alcohol are part of the picture. Most of us are planning for a future that is bigger than work, more freedom with our time, travel, deeper relationships, and a time to fully enjoy that which we've built. But for many, health setbacks begin well before retirement, often as a slow accumulation of small choices that quietly compound into high blood pressure, elevated blood sugars, weight gain, reduced mobility, or chronic fatigue. In this video, I will talk about evidence-based health trends that you can start now. Eating habits that support metabolic health, regular movement and strength, better sleep hygiene, and lifestyle choices that protect your heart and brain so your future self inherits not just years, but quality years. Hi, I'm Dr. Francisca Osagi. Thank you for joining me on Francisca on Health Matters. Across the boards, when people talk about investing in the future, there's usually emphasis on financial investments. And so you hear talks about stocks, real estate, savings, bonds, precious metals, and even crypto. Now, to be clear, those tools matter. But what is often downplayed is that asset that actually determines how one enjoys those other investments. And that asset is one's health. Now, here is a hard question. What's the return on even the best financial portfolio if, for instance, a 60-year-old experiences a stroke and the aftermath affects speech, memory, and even the ability to think clearly to manage what was built? Now, that scenario is not meant to scare anyone, but it's meant to create a case for balance. Now, we can't predict the future and every diagnosis, but we can reduce the risk and tilt the odds towards a future with more capacity, more independence, and fewer preventable complications. If you zoom out and look at the big picture, the World Health Organization reports that non-communicable diseases, conditions like cardiovascular disease and diabetes, account for roughly 3/4 of deaths worldwide. And they share a small set of major modifiable risk factors: unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, tobacco use, and harmful use of alcohol. In other words, the big killers are not random. They are strongly influenced by patterns we repeat over years. I like to frame wellness as a form of long-term investing. Just as consistent contributions and smart decisions shape a financial portfolio, consistent health habits shape your future capacity, your energy, your cognition, your strength, and your resilience. Importantly, research shows that even small consistent changes can make a significant difference. For example, major health bodies recommend that adults aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity per week, alongside muscle strengthening activity, because this level is linked with meaningful reductions in major chronic disease risks. Nutrition is a major part of that picture because it's the input that repeatedly shapes the blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, inflammation, and the body's weight. In fact, recent global burden of disease analysis estimates that suboptimal diet remains a leading modifiable contributor to ischemic heart disease burden, with low intakes of whole grains, fruits and nuts and seeds, and high sodium intake among the key dietary factors linked to risks. That's a powerful reminder that healthy eating is not a trend for the aesthetics. It is a strategy for protecting the heart and brain over decades. So when I say invest in your health, I'm not talking about a single hack or supplement. I'm talking about a health portfolio, a sum of your everyday lifestyle deposits. The food you eat most often, your regular activity and exercise, your sleep patterns, your relationships and social connection, your mental health and stress skills, and the presence or absence of tobacco smoking, excessive alcohol use, or other harmful habits. And over time, these trends compound either towards resilience and function or toward preventable diseases. So the real question becomes, what does a smart health portfolio look like? And where do you start if you want changes that are realistic, evidence-based, and sustainable? First, we'll consider the biggest drivers of premature disease and disability are strongly influenced by a brief list of modifiable exposures. In global health data, cardiovascular disease dominates, and within it, ischemic heart disease and stroke sit at the top. Type 2 diabetes is also a major and fast-growing contributor to disability, and it powerfully amplifies vascular risks. Studies show that there's a handful of modifiable factors: blood pressure, blood lipids, smoking, diet quality, physical activity, abdominal obesity, diabetes, alcohol patterns, and psychosocial stress account for most of the population level risk across countries and cultures. So investing in your health isn't about chasing separate rules for each disease. It's about building habits that lower risks across the board. Let's start with ischemic heart disease because it remains a leading cause of death worldwide. And because its risk factors are among the most measurable and the most improvable. Ischemic heart disease is essentially not enough blood flow to the heart muscle, most often because the coronary arteries have gradually narrowed from atherosclerotic plaque. It can show up as angina, that is chest discomfort or pressure with exertion or stress, and it can culminate in a heart attack when a plaque ruptures and a clot suddenly blocks blood flow. This process is usually the result of long-term exposures to well-known drivers: elevated blood pressure, atherogenic cholesterol, especially LDL, insulin resistance and high blood sugar, and chronic inflammation, often accumulating silently for years before symptoms appear. Lifestyle patterns can either accelerate or slow those changes. And the most recognized negative yet modifiable influences include diet quality, including high sodium intake, low fiber and whole grains, low fruits and vegetables, and high ultra-processed foods, physical inactivity and prolonged sedentary time, tobacco use, including secondhand exposure, harmful alcohol use, short or poor quality sleep, and chronic stress and poor recovery. Next is stroke. Globally, stroke remains among the top causes of death and a major cause of long-term disability. A stroke happens when blood flow to the part of the brain is interrupted, either by a clot, as in ischemic stroke, or by bleeding, as in hemorrhagic stroke. Either way, brain tissue is injured, and the effects can involve movement, speech, vision, and cognition. Stroke shares many of the same risk factors as ischemic heart disease, but one stands out: high blood pressure, which is consistently the leading contributor worldwide. Other major modifiable stroke risk factors include unhealthy diet patterns, especially high sodium intake and low fruits and vegetables, physical inactivity and sedentary behavior, smoking and tobacco exposure, harmful alcohol use, diabetes and elevated blood sugar, excess body weight, particularly central or abdominal adiposity. Like ischemic heart disease, stroke rises sharply when blood pressure is uncontrolled. But stroke can also be driven by other medical conditions that are tied to lifestyle and prevention. Diabetes, high LDL cholesterol, and importantly, atrial fibrillation, an irregular heart rhythm that allow clots to form and travel to the brain. This is why a strong health investment includes both lifestyle habits and routine screening. Knowing your blood pressure, lipids, and blood sugar, and getting evaluated for heart rhythm issues when appropriate. And we have diabetes and mental health, the often missed side of health investing. Diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, is one of the fastest growing global health challenges and a major driver of disability and healthcare burden. What makes it so important for future self-investing is this. Type 2 diabetes is strongly influenced by lifestyle, and when it is prevented, delayed, or well controlled, many complications can be avoided or pushed further into the future. Over time, uncontrolled diabetes damages blood vessels and nerves. The World Health Organization notes that diabetes increases the risk of heart attack and stroke, and it can lead to kidney failure, vision loss, and blindness, and lower limb amputation, outcomes that can be life-changing for individuals and families. The good news is that prevention is possible. In a landmark diabetes prevention program, an intensive lifestyle approach targeting modest weight loss and at least 150 minutes of activity per week reduced the development of type 2 diabetes by about 58% in people at high risks. That gives real weight to the idea of health deposits compounding over time. Common lifestyle exposures that increases type 2 diabetes risks include consistently taking in more calories than you expend, especially over years, higher intake of refined carbohydrates and added sugars, including sugar-sweetened beverages, low fiber, low whole food dietary patterns, physical inactivity and prolonged sedentary time, excess body weight, especially central abdominal adiposity, chronic stress, and persistently poor sleep. The first step is awareness, knowing what your current routine is repeatedly reinforcing. The second step is the investment itself, building healthy routines and being available for routine health screenings such as blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar so you can catch problems early. And we can't talk about a future-ready health portfolio without talking mental health. Depressive disorders and anxiety disorders are among the leading causes of years lived with disability worldwide, affecting people across ages and backgrounds, not just a small subgroup. Protecting mental health is not separate from physical health. It is deeply intertwined with it. Research consistently links higher risks of depression and anxiety and worse symptom burden to many of the same lifestyle factors we've already discussed, including poor sleep quality or chronically short sleep, low physical activity, and high sedentary time, low quality diets, for example, low fruits and vegetables, and high ultra-processed foods and added sugars, smoking and harmful alcohol use, chronic stress, and limited recovery. And yes, notice the overlap. The same daily patterns that raise risk for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes also shape mood and anxiety. But mental health has two additional portfolio categories that deserve special attention: coping skills and social connection. First, coping skills. How you process stress, regulate emotions, and recover after hard days. And second, social connection. Loneliness and social isolation are now recognized as serious health risks. links to worse mental and physical health outcomes, and higher risk of early death. And finally, we have to acknowledge the role of socioeconomic and environmental pressures: income, education, neighborhood safety, access to healthy foods, time, transportation, because these realities shape the options people can actually choose. So, what does investing look like in real life? Here are evidence based core deposits that support both body and mind. Protect sleep. Aim for consistent sleep and improve sleep quality. Move regularly. Meet aerobic activity targets and include strength training. Eat for long term health. Prioritize whole foods, fiber, fruits, and vegetables, and minimize excess sodium and ultra processed foods. Strengthen social connections. Building relationships, community, and support. Avoid tobacco and limit alcohol, especially harmful patterns. If coping skills feels vague, think of it as training capacity. Mindfulness, self-awareness, and healthier response to stress. Evidence-based options include structured therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, and skills-based programs that build resilience. And if your stress is tied to real constraints, it is not all in your head. Practical support like financial counseling, community resources, education or skills training can reduce pressure and expand choices. The goal is not perfection, it is creating a healthier baseline you can maintain. And just like financial investing, it's rarely too late to start. But earlier and more consistent deposits usually yield more compounding over time. In health terms, that compounding looks like better energy, stronger mobility, healthier blood pressure and blood sugar, and lower chance of preventable disability as you age. So that's it for today, and I hope you found this helpful. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're yet to subscribe so you can receive more of my wellness content. Thanks for watching. Again, I hope you found this informative and educative. And if you've had, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.